Hello everyone, this is Thang Nguyen. I'm showing you how to draw the P chart in Excel. After you download the Excel example, this is you would see. First of all, we see that there are 30 samples and we have 100 items in each sample. In the second part, you will see the number of errors for each sample, right? So for example, for sample 1 out of 100 items, we have 2 errors. For sample 2 out of 100 items, we have 3 errors, right? And going on all the way to sample 30th. And in the third part of the Excel example file, you will see the steps so that we can calculate the values to draw the P chart. So this is a calculation template, right? It shows you all of the steps that we have to go through. And finally, you can see the P chart in this example. So let's start everything from the beginning. So I would delete all the values in this calculation template. And we also delete the chart so that we can redraw it later. Let's start from the beginning. First of all, we would need to find the proportion of errors or the percentage of errors. So for sample 1, we would calculate that as equal the number of errors in sample 1 divided by the number of items in sample 1, right? But all other samples will have the same number of sample size, so we would need to log in this value 100. So at this point we have the proportion of errors in sample 1, and we can drag it all the way to the end to have all of the individual proportion of errors. So in the second step, we would need to calculate the center line, right? So we need to calculate the P bar, which is the average of all of the individual proportions of errors. So P bar equals average, and we highlight all of the individual proportion of errors. We already have the value, but we need to copy that value to be the same everywhere. So I would go to the second cell, equal the first cell, and then we can drag from the second cell on. So at this point, we already have the center line. And in the next step, we need to calculate an intermediate value. So equals SQRT for square root, and we take that P bar times 1 minus P bar, right, divided by the number of items in each sample. So that's the sample size 100 up here. In the next step, we will need to calculate the upper control limit and the lower control limit. For the upper control limit, we calculate that as equal the P bar plus 3 times the standard error. And for the lower control limit, we would calculate that as equals P bar minus 3 times the standard error. At this point, you can see a negative lower control limit, but because the number of errors or the number of defects cannot be negative, and that's why the proportion of errors cannot be negative. And so you can either replace the negative number by 0, or we use a function in Excel to do that. We would type in the max, and we choose a maximum between that calculated value or 0. So if we got a negative value, the function will take in 0. And of course, if the calculated value is positive, then it just keeps that as is. And next, we will need to copy the control limits to be the same everywhere. So we go to the second cell, equal the first cell, equal the first cell, right? And we drag from the second cells on all the way to the end of the table. So at this point, we have all of the 4 components of the P chart. In the next step, we will draw the P chart. I would highlight all the labels and all the numbers together. And we click on insert at the top, click on chart, and we click on the line chart with markers. So at this point, we already have the basic P chart. You will need to expand the canvas to be wider. You would need to delete the extra point here. You would need to put in the chart title, and basically you can play around with the options to polish up the chart. Thank you very much for watching.